I am Josh Rabelais, and this is
Nick McLaughlin, and together we are the
Saved Skeptics.
Skeptics. All
I've been
right.
practicing in the mirror. I'm not going to mess it up this time. I know what we're doing, so
That's what you're
we
doing
are.
from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. every day.
Yeah, I mean, you can never have enough practice, so you gotta kind of just do it, make it happen.
Know
You
your
know,
own
just say
podcast name, you know?
right. It's tough. I mean, you think with the logo and the saying it multiple
I made
times
a
and the
logo.
talking about it.
Right? It should be pretty easy to remember, but even I was about to say a different name.
It's in the moment. You get like, you start freezing. You're like, oh no, what if I say it wrong? And then you're like, oh God, I said it wrong. So here
Right?
we go.
Okay.
Uh,
Well,
well, thankfully we have not been canceled yet, so that
so
is
happy.
good, right? And the feedback for the first episode has been genuinely positive, so that is all really good. So we decided, you know what? You know, it'd be a really good thing to do. Let's just double down with a harder question. Uh, that seems like a safe bet.
That's
So
smart.
right, that's a smart decision. Last episode we discussed a little bit more about what did we discuss? I'm
We
trying to remember.
discussed basically all the reasons people should hate us and hate God. And then we were
Basically,
basically just basically why, like, can a good God cause suffering? Like, is
why
it,
does suffering exist
yeah,
with a good
suffering
God?
existing? And then today's episode is all about the one thing that I hear the most from people around me, people, from me, from even my wife that kept her from becoming Christian originally. Maybe even you. I would love to hear a lot
Oh,
about
absolutely.
your experience. This is about hell. Today is about how can a good God send people to hell? And we're going to try something. I don't know if it'll work out or not, but I have
Right.
written 7 questions down from easiest to hardest, and we'll start out with the easiest that have to do with this subject that people ask. So, but first off, let's just hear your take, Josh.
So where I'm at with this, and yeah, yes, absolutely, I wrestled with it. It was something that when I was questioning, um, it wasn't exactly my go-to argument. I wouldn't say it's like, it's the number one, but it's definitely become a bigger thing as I've become a believer, I've been hearing about it more. Was the idea of why does a good God send people to hell? Why is there the existence of hell? And in a nutshell, I know we're probably going to get into it with the questions you have,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
to kind of get into it, it's God. My thought is God loves us. God does love us, and hell was not intentionally meant or originally meant for us. It was a byproduct of the result of Eve and Adam's sin. And when the sin happened, it joined in with, say, Satan or the enemy, the adversary, and joined in with that. And God is such a loving God that the default to me is we go to heaven. If
Right.
we
That's what I
choose to
thought too.
make yeah, if we choose to make the mistakes, it's saying, look, I love you. All you have to do is pledge your love to me. And if you can't make that choice or you choose incorrectly, which I'm sure we're going to go into because there's a whole laundry list of when I say incorrectly, I don't mean like, oh, one little thing and that's it, you're done.
Right.
Um,
Right. Oh,
because
there's
that's
so
kind of how
much
it,
about that. Yeah.
oh, there's so much. I'll use the phrase God acting, where people will act like they understand and they know what the decision is, and kind of act like God and make that decision. Whereas it's pledging life to a different God, essentially. If you're saying, yeah, thank you for the creation, but I'm going to hang out with all the stuff that is good, feels good or is good, then there is a natural punishment because that's what's just. My flip, and I'll ask the first question, even though I know you have questions.
Go for it.
This isn't written down. This is in the moment. It'd be like, hey, so should someone murders your entire family, should they just be free? Just let them walk, live out among us. I mean, yeah,
Oh,
they absolutely not.
right.
It is
Right.
a technical just society or a just system for punishment to exist. Why can't it be the same?
Right. One thing I want to hear from you too is like you told me you were atheist, and I think because this podcast is from ex-atheists and agnostics that came to Christ through skepticism. What was your experience like really like as an atheist about this subject?
So, as an atheist, you kind of, at least from my perspective, because obviously there's different perspectives, is,
Yeah, yeah,
you
just
know,
your experience.
we used to, or I used to laugh at depictions of atheism, usually in Christian content. And honestly, even as a Christian, I still laugh at the depiction of atheists because it's always snidely whiplash twirling villains that just live and breathe for evil, and that's all they do. And it's like, that's not it at all. And when I was an atheist, there was a lot of, I'm not the one talking about a higher power here. So that was kind of the default, was if somebody was like, well, punishment has to exist and God therefore has set up a punishment system, which would in turn be hell. It would be, well, at the same time, he's God, he has control, he doesn't have to do it, he chose to. I'm not a
Right.
God, but if there's a God, then why does he make that choice? Because he can choose not to do that.
Yeah, almost comparing and saying like, oh, if I were God, like I could do so
Yeah,
much better.
yeah, exactly. And my system for God is always the best. It's always this default, which there wasn't a system. It was just, we're all on our own.
Yeah.
Everything is what it is. Uh, okay, cool. That's why it kind of shifted to agnosticism, because I kind of lost the point with atheism, in that it became, okay, if I'm saying no, I can't technically prove beyond, like with any type of test, that it's incorrect. And
Right,
at the
right,
same time, whereas it's like, oh, I can't prove, or at least in my thought, my head, it was, oh, you can't prove that it is correct.
right.
My thought was, I can't prove it's not correct. So I might as well be agnostic. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I remember many a time with my wife saying, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I'm not going to know the answer. I'm not going to waste the time on it. I'm going to focus on everything else. And that kind of became a shift. But with atheism, it was very much that this whole thing is hogwash. The whole thing is,
Right.
the Bible's a
Some
big old story. And
big, like mean, cruel God that's just like, whatever. You're here for my
yeah.
amusement and you're gonna be punished because
Oh, another one that I remember is that, well, shoot, what was it that we used to say? Because again, one of my still a very good friend of mine is still very atheist. And so that's who I kind of was atheist with, was him. And like I said, that's my white whale. One day I'll speak to him about the faith. We only toe the line on the subject, but we used to be like, essentially, it's so silly. Like, okay,
right.
so there's this God who's three head, and there's a talking snake, and there's all this,
It
and
all seems so crazy.
it's
And you're
so far
like,
fetched,
right.
or it's a fairy tale, or there's all sorts of different answers that you get with it.
When you think the
Um,
default of life is nothing,
yeah.
like you are born from nothing, you end up with nothing, die with nothing, and nothing exists. Like anything miraculous seems crazy.
It all has a scientific explanation, is the thought process. Everything can be
Yeah, to a
scientifically
point.
explained, is what it is with it. And I always was under the belief that science and religion were enemies. And
Same.
since then, I've had multiple times to see that no, they can actually work in cahoots with each other. If that kind of became a thing with Richard Dawson in the 70s and 80s, I believe, is where the science is anti-religion, instead of, because most scientists
Mm.
were and kind of are religious. It
Yeah,
kind of
most
it became
science
a.
derives
Oh,
from,
sorry. No,
I was gonna say most science derives from Christianity. Even
abs-
testing came from the Bible. The whole theory
yeah,
of testing.
and proving it, and the idea, there's a lot of religions out there that are, don't look into it, don't prove it, you have to believe it, you have to, and you can't question it. And what I know about Christianity, and this isn't all sects of Christianity, but Christianity as a whole is very much like, go, all right, prove it, go ahead, have fun.
And that's what got me to go from agnostic to Christian was because it's actually welcomed. Like there's so many religions where you're not supposed to question You're not supposed to, and if you do, like, you're committing some sort of big issue, and you can lose a lot of family members. But I enjoyed that you can question Christianity. You can question, God wants you to question it and look into it, try to prove yourself wrong. And that's been my saying is I do my best to prove myself wrong, and then keep proving the thing I'm trying to prove wrong right, then prove that wrong. And I keep doing that over and over. And I always end up with Christianity making the most sense or having the most historical evidence or making like it's just it all leads to Christianity from what I've seen.
It's there's an actual name for it. I'm gonna make up one, but it's not the actual official one. But it's kind of like the
Off the
great
top.
end, right? The great end point is what I'm calling it. I don't think that's the actual term, but it's basically that everything at the end, eventually, if you go down the line, everything ends with a creator.
Yeah.
If something has to have, and I'm gonna go all reasonable faith on you, if something has to have a creator in order to exist, and the universe exists, therefore the universe has a creator.
Right.
Is the logic behind
Right.
it? And that if it came from something that even if you go down to a scientist, I mean, you go Big Bang, we are a microcosm and a speck of dust that burst forth and created the universe. Where'd the speck of dust come from?
Right.
How did a speck of dust come into being?
In order to create one protein cell, like you need like there's not a single scientist on the planet today that can even create one single protein cell from nothing.
Yeah, it
They're
can't be
trying.
done.
But I want to get off track here too. I
Yeah.
had a few questions for both of us, and I want to hear your point.
All right, let's go.
Okay, I'm starting with easiest and then going to hardest. So out of 7 questions, here's the first one.
Watch the first one be so hard. Like, oh my
Why do you exist? No, I'm just kidding.
gosh. What is the meaning of life?
Um,
42.
wouldn't a God who sends people to hell seem more cruel than good? Like, what makes him good? I feel like he's bad to send people to hell.
And that's okay. That's a good one. That's a good question. That's a good first question. My gosh. Okay. So my thought on that, and I'll be curious to hear yours, is if a child makes a mistake, do you punish them or tell them that they did wrong?
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, to
If
learn
they
from it.
do it enough times, eventually it becomes a point that something greater has to happen. And people think, I think where the logic lies, and I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on it, is kind of in what we talked about and the one mistake, oopsies, you're done. Don't get me wrong, there are things that are bad enough that if you do that one thing, it carries a lot of weight. We're talking about the idea of a God that, oh, you lied one time, so that's it. You're done. Off to hell you go. And it's not so much that, not to say that that's not wrong, it absolutely is, but it's so much more than that because the fact that it's not just that is him not being cruel, that
Right.
it's not just one mistake and done. And I think it kind of gets that mindset of, oh, it's if you screw up one time, you're out. And it's not the case. What do you think?
Right. Well, I think that's a good point. And also that, like, if we look at our own standards, even of like punishment, like I punish myself for not finishing my to-do list for the day. Like I fail my own standards all the time. Even if I define what good and bad were, I would still fail. I think every person does. And I also want to point that the God of the universe, if he didn't give a way out, that would be cruel. And the thing about Christianity that like is amazing and separates it from every religion is that it's not about works. It's not about I need to do something to make up for any bad things I've ever done of lying and cheating and stealing or whatever it is. But he literally just came to earth and said, you know what, I'm going to sacrifice my life and pay for the sin, the debts of sin. Like for people that atheists that don't know what that really is, you could just think of it as like all of the core issue in every human being that causes people to do evil, causes all the problems you hate in this world. Jesus literally died for that. And
Yeah.
he paid with his life so that all you literally have to do is come to him. And then you will naturally start repenting of your ways, which means just to turn from whatever that thing is that causes us to do evil things. And my desires have changed a lot. Only wanted to do more things that please God. And God just wants us to do things that make the world a better place, make worshiping Him like a more beautiful process in a lot of ways.
So to respond to that, and I want to get your thoughts on this interpretation idea. What is the first commandment? And
It's to
like
order
from the
Domino's on
tablets.
a Saturday at this. No.
The first commandment is you shall not have other gods besides me.
Right, right, right.
And that becomes a jealousy argument. They said, it gets said that, oh, he's a jealous God. And I think people think other gods besides me is just referring to a golden calf or just referring to the Egyptian god. And anything I've always interpreted that a god, quote unquote, is anything that you put before him to a religious standpoint. Oh, I have to smoke my cigarettes. I'm not a person if I don't. That is putting a god before him, because that is, showing that this is the most important thing. This is what makes me me. That's where
Right.
there's that issue. And that was a very minor, like a very minor example. But that's kind of what I thought. So what are your thoughts on that idea?
Yeah. Yeah. Like he says that for a reason. And it's because people prove over and over, time and time again, that when we put anything in this world above him, it's going to only take away from us and from him. Everything, we have to see it this way. One thing I didn't think of when I was an agnostic, and what I hear a lot of atheists say, is they don't really understand that what God does isn't for him. It's for us because he doesn't need anything. I mean, it's for
That's
him,
very
but
true.
it's really just that. What can he possibly get out from me doing something for him? Like, but he doesn't need anything. He's perfect. If he's supposed to be this perfect God, what do I have to offer? So when I worship God, when I do things that he tells me to do that are in the commandments or in the Bible, loving your enemies, forgiving people, so just so many things that I don't want to do that go against my nature, it actually ends up making the world a better place. And we can see that through, this is what boggled my mind, was through the science of it and through the history, you can look at how Christianity has established more good than any other religion in history. So it's just absolutely mind-boggling that when
And
people,
that and the bad gets so outweighed.
right. So, when God sends people to hell, like I love what you were saying at the beginning of the podcast too. You were saying that hell wasn't made for people. It was made for the people, the angels who rebelled against God. It wasn't made for us because we were supposed to be made perfect, and but God gave us free will. And but one thing he gives us is he gives us the choice to get out of having to go to hell. We have an entire lifetime and we don't have to like I don't have to even like carry my Bible with me everywhere I go, or drink a certain drink all day long, or pray 6 times a day, or do any specific thing. All I have to do is literally just give my life to Christ and say, "Hey, I follow you." That's it. Whatever that looks like, you show me the way. And I've never once felt anything but bliss from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of piggyback off that is it's living it as well. Because it's not just saying it. It's not just say, oh, because I see people be like, well, cool, I accept Jesus Christ. We're
Right.
done. We're good.
Look at my
I got my
sticker, my
ticket.
badge.
Right? Yeah, I'm good. I did. I accept Jesus Christ. We're good. And it's like, no, it's acceptance through action as well. It's not
Right.
just
Right. Right.
kind of like declaring bankruptcy and the old the office joke. You can't just yell it and say, "Hey, here you go." It's actions that you have to do
Right.
in order to
Right.
get it.
Exactly. And it comes from like a loving relationship. It comes from me wanting to do it, not being obligated to, because God wants us in a relationship with him. He doesn't want us to just only follow rules. He wants us to do things because it is good, because it is his will for us, because it is what's right, because it is loving to do those things. If I'm in a relationship and I don't really care about this person, but I'm like, well, my parents married us, so I'm just going to do all the things I'm supposed to do. That's very different in its core than if I said, I choose you. And even though I don't have to, I choose you and I choose to serve you as best as I possibly can,
Yeah,
out of love. Very different things. But
absolutely.
I think as an agnostic or an atheist, you would think, oh, you just do what this God tells you to do. That's obligatory. It's very different. I'm choosing. So,
Yeah, and that's what makes it so different is that choice element that you're talking about.
right.
And that's where I had an issue. Is there was a lot of when I was growing up, it was a lot of you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to follow this rule, you have to follow this, you have to follow this. Boom, 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 boom. You have to, have to, have to, have to. And what led me to leave was saying, why? Do I have to?
Mm, right.
Why is there no like? What's the reason for it? And rather than giving me an answer and telling me about Jesus Christ and living a good life, it was, you can't ask that. And so then it was, well, hold on. I can
Mm.
ask that because I possess the ability to ask that. And if I just would have followed the paper trail and pushed further, eventually I did. But you come back to it and see the majesty within it.
Right. Like in Jehovah's Witness or Mormonism, you can't ask those questions or you can risk losing your family. Your family will push you out forever. And it's a lot.
Yeah, very much so, and a very literal interpretation in a lot of aspects. Which that's, uh, not to dog on any other religion or anything. We're not trying to pile on or anything
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
And
of
it's
course.
that's where there's some discrepancy with it. Is just that the belief system and that forced belief system. Yeah, I mean Jehovah's Witnesses alienate. Mormons have a tendency to alienate. Not that all do, but they do. That is an aspect that does exist, and that's you know it's kind of like the bigger sects of Christianity as well, not Christianity as a whole, that alienates. I mean,
Exactly.
I know Baptists who got alienated their children for stuff that we would be like, that's minor, like that's I don't see that one. And that became a major thing. That's a topic for another day too, kind of talking
Right.
about Jesus's interpretation of religion. I think you shared me in a meme on our page on Facebook, not our page, but the
Yeah.
Christian meme page.
Yeah.
The difference between religion and relationship. That it's
Exactly.
religion is the rules, relationship is them walking with. I think it's the chosen, and them like walking with the actor.
Right. Great
A little
show.
bit different example, but
Yeah.
but yeah. So there's a difference, and that's the big thing.
Absolutely. I'm looking at my list here. I feel like we're answering a lot of these questions just by like
Oh, sweet.
trying to answer one. So I'm gonna go to another hardest one if you feel like you're ready for the next one.
Let's go. Let's go. I'm
Okay.
ready.
This is actually a really good one my wife's sister asked.
Okay.
If all people believe in a higher power, but it's a different higher power than your own, why does that mistake still allow you to go to hell?
Okay, here's my interpretation of it. Tell me what you think. I think willfully knowing Christ and choosing another God is where there is the issue. If you have never been exposed to it, don't think that gets put in as an immediate fault. I think it is only a willful denial of Christ, because that kind of becomes, if you put somebody on an island and okay, here we go. I'm making this up as I go. Let's see how we're going to follow this little train and see what happens.
All right.
You have two people. You have two people on an island. Okay, one has a book that says how to survive on an island. The other has nothing. Okay, if the other person survives on the island, and then when you go to rescue them, you go, oh, well, you didn't do step two. You didn't build a tent first. You
Hmm.
didn't fish your food first. Did they technically fail? No, they survived the island. They didn't have the guidebook. They didn't have the thing. Whereas if the other person who had the book still chose to not follow the instructions and survived, you would look at the one who had no guidance as the stronger person because there wasn't the willful ignorance to ignore it. They were in a reactionary standpoint. That's my thought on it.
Like, how do you choose this God that you've never heard of, But like a lot of times God in the Bible says that he made it obvious through creation, just the fact that we have all of these incredible things that had to come from something, because even scientists, they know information comes from an intelligent mind and design comes from a designer. You can't have anything from nothing. That's why we don't see elephants pop out of nowhere. You know,
Right.
I think that God, this is my personal view, is I think God will not punish someone for not knowing something. But like you said, if they know, well, maybe this is the right way to live, maybe there is a God out there, but they're saying, no, I'm not going to see that. I'm not going to look down that path. I feel like that's different because you're saying no in your heart. And if we look at what Jesus says, he's changed everything. He said you can murder someone in your heart without even murdering them, just by hating them. So God is after your heart. So in that sense, it really is like a relationship. He wants to know, are you denying me in your heart? It's like being in a relationship with someone if like you don't really care about them, but you're with them, but you have that like part of your heart saying, I don't really know if I care. I kind of deny them in some way. Like, is that really fully loving them? God wants us here to choose him because it will only be for the betterment of everybody, for him, for us, for the world.
like using my little island metaphor I just came up with, the person know if they see fish, okay, because they're on an island, they see fish and they know that they can eat the fish and they are thankful that the fish exists because something put the fish there and aren't disrespectful to it. Therefore, that is worship of God,
Mm.
even if it doesn't have the exact name. And that's, again, that's where I think people, and it sounds like your sister maybe with it, is drawing the line, or your sister-in-law, the drawing the line in the sand is, oh, somebody gets to, heaven on the, and is at the pearly gates. St. Peter is there. They've never heard the name Christ. They've never been exposed to the Bible. So we're saying zero. There's been zero exposure, but they lived a faithful life. They honored and acknowledged that there was some creator. Something had to have created all of this. I don't, again, it's not my call, but I don't see that as being someone getting sent to hell. And I feel like that became, and I need to look up the history on it, that became a standpoint later in the church, when the church started to worry about numbers and it started to worry about people leaving. It became kind of like, I don't know if this is a question or not, but kind of like the concept of hell. Most of the images we have of hell come from something way later than Jesus'
Oh yeah,
time.
like 14th century, like pitchfork and flames.
Oh, literally Dante's Inferno by Dante
Yeah.
Alighieri.
Which is
It
not what hell is
was,
actually depicted as in the Bible.
he was an artist told by the church and commissioned to write something. And it's so interesting because he wrote 3 books, and that's what people forget. It's 3 chapters. He goes to hell, he goes to purgatory, and then he goes to heaven. And but nobody knows the other 2. They're all right. But it's the one, it's because the imagery
Heaven
is
unknown.
so, it's so, everybody knew what heaven was. Everybody knew what a concept was.
Mm.
And so hell was like, we need to make it scary, especially what's happening in the 14th century, or what just happened in the 14th century. We had just ended not too long ago. I mean, we're talking 200, 300 years. You'd had the Crusades. Muslim uprising is still very, very prevalent. Like, you have a thing where the church starts to get scared. And when they start to get scared, they start to get sinful, in my opinion. And
Right.
you start getting things like the Spanish Inquisition and the church being the head of the government, which has pros and cons. And in this instance was a con, because it was all about power, because they were clinging for power, and it got fearful, not even realizing that Jesus had already talked about this, that like, it's okay if you're not in power. Like, it's fine. But hell was a place of eternal suffering, whatever that may be. He does say hell fire. He does say burn, and like with fire.
Gnashing
I know
of
that's a
teeth.
point of gnashing of teeth, which was a euphemism of the time. That doesn't literally mean gnashing of teeth. It's I've always interpreted it as it's a euphemism for extreme distress,
Right.
extreme pain.
Prescriptive versus descriptive throughout the whole
Yeah.
Bible. Another good reminder.
And that is, if if you choose the other side that I've said not to, then a just thing would be, yeah, then you go to that. Then you have decided that that's what you want to be with. Okay, that breaks God's heart. But if that's where you choose, then that's where you go. And I don't think it's at more like, you see the depictions like going down, and then he's like taking joy and sending people to hell. That's where I think
Right.
he has kind of mixed it up a little bit.
Right. Like Satan is not, like the devil does not have enough power as people think it, like in memes and whatever. Like he is not an equal to God at all in the slightest. In fact, he's described as beneath even the feet of people, because God is holy and Satan is like the very bottom. He's not going to be in hell as some guy with power there. He's not omnipresent. He's not like all powerful. He's limited, and he's going to be suffering more than anybody else.
If only there was a verse that described that he would strike at the
Read it.
heel while others struck at his head.
Right.
If only there was a verse about that.
Right. Darn. Oh well.
Look at it, right? As far as I know, Genesis didn't have it. It's literally what would happen. You're exactly right. He's not as powerful. But guess what? If you get nipped on the heel, you can fall. If you're not striking at its head, then you can still fall. And that's where
Right.
the power lies.
The question about if people don't hear about, Jesus, are they going to go to hell? Well, for most of history, people didn't know Jesus because Jesus was spirit. He hadn't come to earth yet for many, many years. But there's talk of Messiah, there was talk of so much. But so is God going to judge all of those people before Jesus came and say, well, you didn't know the name Jesus, so therefore you're all going to hell instantly? Like that
Right.
goes totally against even the fact that God was there throughout
Yeah.
a lot of the Hebrew history, and he warns people over and over and over through so many ways and signs, but also through just showing his creation. And so I think just we overcomplicate it too a lot and say, like, oh, God can't exist. Like, even though I'm looking at all of his things made up by atoms that I have no idea how they got here. Like, my brother asked me this too, or he sent me memes about this. Like, where does God come from? As if he's a creation as well. But God is an uncaused cause, the original uncaused cause. Therefore, there has to be something at the very beginning that is outside of any kind of creation, any kind of time, any time of matter. It has to be intelligent, personable, have morality, be the definition of good in order for any of these things to exist. There's got to be an uncaused cause. God, like if you think about it, even like non-religiously, if there is any potential greatest, most all-powerful, all-knowing anything, like in any universe, if there's thousands of universes, then it's in every universe because it's the most all-knowing, all-powerful thing. And that exists in every universe. That has to. Like there's a tallest person in the world. There's,
Yeah.
in every universe, there's a tallest person in the world, unless every universe, everyone's exactly the same height. And God is just what that thing is. And he is spirit. He is intelligent. He is divine and creative and loving and good. And those are something I was like, oh man, I want to add that.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Absolutely. No, that's a really good point because yeah, I mean, you're right. He doesn't need an origin tale. He is beyond the origin tale. And I think as an atheist back in the day, that would have been the easiest creation thing would be that he was a creation from the human mind. Well, there you go. I figured it out. And that, for so long became kind of, oh, that's what it was, not realizing that, yeah, you're right, that he is the uncaused cause. He's not a thing. Anything can have a cause. He's not a thing. It's like there is no word to describe what he is. We even use he
Right.
descriptively
Right.
for our
Right.
own necessary use. Like it has nothing to do with, whether he's a man or I see that all the time. Is he a man
Yeah.
or a woman?
Yeah.
And it's like we use he descriptively. We use he just to describe. And he doesn't need the origin tale. He doesn't need the creation idea. He is all that was and all that is. And that's where he kind of comes from.
Yeah. I
So
am that I am.
exactly. So one thing I do want to talk to you about too, because it just popped up with what you were just saying,
Yeah.
and kind of listening to us talk, is something I see a lot of, and this is mainly from Christians, to be honest, mainly from Christians, is the idea that they can play God. And
Mm.
that's where I have an issue. Is I hate when people say, "Oh, you're going to hell. Oh, you're going to hell. You're going there.
Mm.
You are doomed. You don't stand a
Those guys standing on
chance."
the corner preaching, you're going to hell.
Right. And you are absolutely and I'm all for calling out sinful behavior. That's fine. Like you see somebody having sinful behavior and you're a believer, absolutely you can call them out and talk to them. But to say that you have the ultimate idea, no, that's not your decision to make. It's
Right.
not my decision. It's not your decision. We could even sit there and go, oh, yeah, that person's definitely going to hell. We have
Right.
no
You don't,
idea.
you,
We
you
have
know,
no idea.
you don't know.
It's kind of like almost an agnostic thought, but not really, because it's to me, it's saying no, the ultimate judgment maker, the only one allowed to judge is God, not
Right.
me.
I hear that a lot with people saying, don't judge. It's not our job to judge. And it's not, but it also is at the same time because we're not supposed to judge unrighteously. We're supposed to judge righteously. Like we can't just judge like someone and say my opinion is better than your opinion, therefore you're doing something bad, or me just like be rude to them, like you're saying, like put down
Yeah.
people and their beliefs. That's not my job as a Christian. My job is to bring people to Christ through the truth, through gentleness. And the verse that is about judgment is entirely about judging. It's telling you how to judge, not to judge. Basically
I
saying this is
agree.
how you should judge people. You should judge through, because that's why we have a court of law. That's why we know when someone's doing something wrong. It's like, well, we need to judge here the right way, righteously, and say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this to this person. That's not right.
Absolutely.
So I
I
was,
agree to that.
yeah, right. Oh, go ahead.
And I make it a point with Mormonism and Jehovah's Witness, like we were talking about. It's like, no, I don't want to dog on the other ones. It's not like I want to. I believe Christianity is correct? Absolutely, yes, and I will happily have a debate so that we can discuss it. But at the same time, I'm not going to mock someone else with what they're feeling, because that is their personal relationship with Christ, and that is their personal relationship with God, whatever that may be. And all I can do is preach the good news to them and tell them and say that, hey, this is based off my experience. This is what I feel. This is what I think. And here's why. And it's on them to see it. It's why in the group, I say that it's why I say the first rule is you have to accept, myself included, that we could change our mind. If you're not going to change your mind, then no sense in talking to you. You have to be
Right.
open to it. But it's just kind of talking about like, oh, sending that God, oh, he just sends people to hell and it sends this, he sends that. We give our interpretation. I think this, and that's what we think. And that's what I think. What you think may be different, but we don't have the answer. Yeah, it's like the people that sit there, oh, I know who's going to hell. Okay,
Yeah.
no.
And like, in the Bible, in the Old Testament, God talks about, he compares a whole civilizations of people as those he takes care of and loves and adores. And then they take all the things that he gave them and abuse it or idolize it, or they become almost, it's almost like he describes it like you're in a loving relationship that's true and honorable, and then the other person becomes a prostitute and goes to make love with everybody else,
Yeah.
and then they take the jewels you gave them for anything out of love, and they say, oh, I'm going to go melt this down, turn it into something to worship. And that's like hard for God. It's like, wow, I'm giving my everything, and you're just you're the one abusing our relationship. And that's how it is with people.
Oh, I mean, reading reading the Bible is literally like, in my own words, it's like, and the Israelites vowed to never do it again. It's like Always Sunny. You flip over to the next book, and it's like the Israelites do it again. It's like, oh,
Again,
Lord,
come
come
on.
on. Well, what are you guys doing?
Right? I just fixed this. But I just turned around. It's like with my son, like he's just rolling onto his tummy
Right.
now. I'll turn around for half a second, look back. He went from his back to his tummy and he's like struggling. He's like trying to crawl, like, he's trying to swim. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, come on. I just put
We
you on your.
just did. Oh, right now, Rowan and Callum, they'll sit on their little pillow and they'll kick their feet because they like to, and they'll drag where they're like chin to chest. So you'll adjust them and they'll just do it again. And it's like, dude, you choked when you did this last time. Come on. What are you doing?
Right.
Hurry up.
It's so
Like,
obvious to us. And that's like a big thing is to point out, like in the beginning you were talking about, God is like a father figure. He's related to as a father so often in the Bible. And it's always the kids who think they know better than the father. And a lot of times that's how you turn into a prideful person.
guess what we have to do 1,000 times? You got to adjust your son. I got to move mine up. We have to make that adjustment. Even though they keep messing up, we know it, but we go, oh, okay, here we go. We're going to fix this. We're going
Right.
to make it better. Here we go.
Right. Okay,
Are they going to
fine.
do it again? Probably. But you know what? Doesn't mean I love them any less.
Right. And I want him to be on his tummy, but just he's going to struggle without my help there. And that's the point,
Exactly.
you know?
Oh,
So,
that's really good.
right.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's golf clap. Golf clap.
Right,
That was a
right.
good one.
Go.
All right. That was a good one. That was a good one.
Jesus is like a key. If you are going back to the
See that?
other religions, like why can't you just like believe in something else and then make that, like, isn't that seeking God? Aren't we all like one? And we're all one in the sense that we're all flesh and blood and we're made in the image of whatever this thing is, that created all of us. which is what we call God. And basically, Jesus is the only one that says, "Hey, I am God in person. Like I came down onto earth and I'm basically giving you the key to my house where you can spend all of eternity with me and being in my presence, there is nothing but joy and love and peace. And if you're not in my presence, well, because I am the definition of that, you're not going to experience any of that, which leads to the gnashing of teeth and everything. So if there's one guy saying, I'm the only one with the key to my own house, I created all of this. Do you feel like it's bigoted to say that that's the only way?
What do you mean by, I guess, what do you mean by bigoted to say?
Or to say like, oh,
I'm trying to,
is it not like loving basically to say like, well, why can't I just go and worship this other thing? And like, why do I have to go to hell if I don't believe in your version of Jesus or in your God?
oh, okay. Um, I'm doing something I don't normally do, and that is I'm thinking before I speak. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, that's just willfully choosing not to. That is, I mean, I think some, hit my mic. I think some nuance would be needed. For instance, what thing? What would be the other interpretation? So, if you are going to worship a separate God, usually there's some type of hedonistic, impure thing that is happening because of it in a lot of religions. I'd
Hmm.
make that argument that there is some type of hedonistic or other sin. There's a reason that you feel called to it. They do that because I can do whatever it may be. So I feel like it would be bigoted if that was the reason, for sure. If it was, oh, hey, I can smoke weed with this other religion, and not nobody blinks, nobody cares, so cool. Or I can do as much drugs as I want, and it's part of the religion. It's cool. That's a different interpretation than that. Yeah, that would be bigoted because to me, that's outwardly denying Christ because of a part of the world so what I'm wrestling in my head with is the belief on the other side if it's still living God's purpose. It just has a different name. That's where I'm thinking. That's where I'm like, I don't know if I have an answer. I don't know if again, because I don't know the true answer. I mean, the obvious answer is
Right.
yes, it is because it's not Christ. But the thing that I think about is like if it's Christ but a different name, that is what is. But as far as I know, I mean, I guess that would be a different circumstance. But as far as I know, there is no other comparable. So my guess would be 9 times out of 10, it's for some hedonistic idea.
Right. Right.
I'm gonna go live this because I can have 10 wives.
Right.
I can do this because
Always
they allow
self-serving.
me to drink beer. And I'd even make the argument that that can happen in Christianity itself.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
I want to drink, so I'm not going to be a Baptist. It's
Hmm.
true story. I used to drink massively. I'm actually like I would honestly put myself not an official alcoholic, but used to be back in the day, part of like layover from college partying.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I haven't
Yeah.
ever since I pretty much when I met my wife, I realized that this is a bunch of poopy. I'm not going to curse, a bunch of poopy, and I need to be done with it. So I was done with it, and not for any religious reason. I was not religious at the time. It was just for my own benefit, and that's where I feel that there's that issue. Is if you are choosing an aspect of the world because you make that as important as part of your faith, that's where I'm like, okay, that's not okay.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think? Did that
Yeah.
make any sense whatsoever?
Yeah, it did. I think that it does come down a lot of times to something self-serving, or it's just a traditional thing you do, but your heart's not in it, or your heart's in it, but you don't question it, like you were saying. Like a lot of people just don't question their own beliefs. And I feel like if you are open to proving yourself wrong, you will eventually, I genuinely, my heart believe you always eventually end up with Christ being the answer. I got into Christianity because I constantly was trying to disprove it. I was disproving everything I could possibly disprove. And
Yep.
Christianity was the one where it's the only one where when you try to disprove it more and more and more, you only end in like with an honest, genuine heart, and you're not trying to also prove your own bias at the same time, you will end up in a further place than you started. and be like, wow, I feel like it makes more sense than I thought originally.
Yeah.
Like the Case for Christ book by Lee Strobel, like a great book if you're an atheist or agnostic and you're questioning things. Because he's a award-winning journalist in the 70s, and he's super atheist. He cannot stand that his wife is like has this relationship with God and is Christian, and he tries to prove her wrong so hard that he goes and interviews all of the world's top minds on why they believe in Jesus and their specific research on each area. And he comes to Christ through that experience. My experience is kind of somewhat similar, not anywhere near that level, but kind of similar. And I feel like a lot of times, agnosticism and atheism to me, the only difference is like one is you don't want to see God as an option, and one is you are open to it, but you're not really there.
Oh, absolutely.
With so many religions, how do we know which idea of hell is actually right, too?
So I have an idea. Why don't we do a part two? And I think we kick it off with that. This is a big topic for a 1 hour episode. This is
It
a
is.
massive topic.
I feel like this
We were,
is
what
too
were we
ambitious.
thinking? We're so silly. What are we
I'll
doing?
I'll disprove everything about hell in like 5 minutes, man.
Right? We'll do this
Good.
in an hour. We'll be good. I think we do part two because I think there's still questions that you have. There's some more questions. There's about 5 that have popped in my head.
Yeah, I want to hear all of your thoughts.
Let's do what are we calling it? Truth, justice, and the divine way. And then why would a just God send people to hell? Let's do part two.
I would like to also describe like what hell actually is biblically, like instead of like the memes of hell and all that, like what it actually
Right.
is.
What is hell?
Right. And why
do
this
now or-
world cannot be just hell, you know?
Yeah. Who's to say it's not? Yes. Oh, we get to say yes now that we are on YouTube. Like and subscribe down below.
You're so excited to say it. Well,
I'm
this
so
is my
excited.
chance.
Yes, this is it. Please click that like button. Or what does Mr. Ballin do where he's like, he'll just find a different scenario. He'll be like, hold the like button at gunpoint and decide to like do all these
Oh
different
my
like, he'll
gosh.
just go on like this drastic thing. But yes, subscribe, get ready for part two, and we will be good to go.
Yeah.
And
This is getting ramping up. I feel like we were going to start off strong. I feel like we started off warming up and now we're going to get stronger and stronger. It's going to get more intense.
right, ain't that the truth?
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Get ready for part 2. We are the Saved Skeptics.
See you next time.